this marvelous experience of unity. And now we'll go to Savitri Sunday. I think we're on 42 now. Page 42. I have to get there. We learned a lot about Hiranyagarbha last week. So let us begin. The Book 1, Book of Beginnings, Canto 3, is about Asrapati and, of course, Sri Aurobindo, because this is his sadhana. So we begin in this yoga of the soul's release. Lifted, it showed the riches of the cave. Now this is very Vedic, and I'll give you what Temi and Alok have given me, and then I'll turn it over to Vladimir because we have a lot here to discuss. The word cave, Alok tells us, refers here to the subconscious domains where the past gleamings of light lie stored and hidden, guarded by the forces and beings of darkness. Temi also says the cave is the subconscious depths. And then the next line, where by the miser traffickers of sense, unused, guarded beneath night's dragon paws, in folds of velvet darkness draped, they sleep, whose priceless value could have saved the world. A miser, of course, is one who lives meagerly in order to hoard money. A trafficker, in this sense, is one who promotes or exchanges goods or services for money. So we have miser traffickers of sense. And Vladimir, will you take over here?
Yes, this is a loaded Vedic imagery, of course.
Yes.
And these misers of sense, traffickers and misers and traders, actually, they are the panis or the karmendriyas in the later language, the indriyas of action. And basically they evolved. That's the whole problem of our psychology. They evolved from the inconscient, and they do not know how to sacrifice. These are the actions of the sense of activities, what we have as a word, hands, legs, and procreatory and excretory organs. These are 4 karmendriyas in Sankhya. And they evolved with the body from inconscient, and every time we receive light or we perceive something deeper in us, some inner being or inner presence, they snatch it, and they grab it and hide it in subconscious cave. And so they store that, all our treasures. That's why we cannot be both active and perceptive. We can be either perceptive and then we stop thinking, we quiet our mind, close our eyes, we look within, we stop even breathing in order to reach deeper to our inner being. And the moment we start acting, talking, moving, the perception, the inner perception disappears. And this is the basic fundamental problem of our psychology. And in the Veda, there is even a hymn where it is said, Usha, come to us and let panis, these Karmendriyas sleep, because when they wake up, they will take and hide the light of our inner perception into the subconscious cave. And this cave Vala is again, it's a personified enemy, which holds like cave of wonders, if you will, in Aladdin. I think it is coming the same imagery from the Vedic into fairy tales, where all our treasures and all our inner treasures are stored over the long period of evolution, so to say, accumulated in the subconscious cave. And that cave has to be broken. And Vala is destroyed by Indra when Indra comes with Maruts and Agni and Brahaspati with his roar, with his word. They break the Vala, and these herds of light, we have them here. The herds of the sun are released. A new heaven is born, new sun is born. This is the secret of the Veda, how to connect the innermost in us, the most physical, with the most spiritual. Yeah. Well, I stop here.
Okay. Now, can you explain why Sri Aurobindo says that they sleep in velvet darkness?
Yes.
Priceless value could have saved the world.
Right. And it will save eventually the world, because all that accumulated knowledge and consciousness within is still there. And once it is released and make connection, if we made a connection with our subconscious and superconscious, there will be a totally new world. They sleep because they are not aware. And Sri Aurobindo says that these panis are not aware of the value they steal. But they traffic it, they trade it, they kind of aggrandize themselves by that value and have no idea what it means, actually. So they are selling something without knowing what value it has. It's very similar to merchants in general. They are selling the goods which they didn't produce. They do not really value those goods other than as the material to sell, to exchange.
Yes, yes. Well, we have the line unused, guarded beneath night's dragon paws. Sri Aurobindo has a beautiful comment in his letters on yoga about night. He says, night is the symbol of the ignorance, or avidya, in which men live, just as light is the symbol of truth and knowledge. And then he says, in the way that one treads with the greater light above, even every difficulty gives its help and has its value. And night itself carries in it the burden of the light that has to be. It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Beautiful, yes. Night in the Veda also is, he speaks on the night of the Veda often. We start with night. It was the hour before the gods awake. And we end with the night. Savitri ends, and in her bosom she nursed the greater dawn. So we have the night, the beginning and the end, and it's always going through the night. Night is a fundamental vision of the Veda, where night accumulates. She is our mother in whose womb we are born. We are born in this world, and that is the night, the separative consciousness in which all these lights, all these stars are shining through. And in the Veda there are two nights, Sri Aurobindo says. One is the starry night in which we rest with the moon, and there is a deeper night where there is no more light, and that is a fundamental inconscient, where the consciousness is absorbed, as it were. And this dragon pose also, it reminds us about how mother discovered. You remember the cave of money, that python around.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, we have an interesting line now, and that is, a darkness carrying morning in its breast, looked for the eternal wide returning gleam, waiting the advent of a larger ray and rescue of the lost herds of the sun. Now, I'll ask Vladimir to expand on that, but I have three things from Alok, Amal, and Temi. So Alok says the powers and forces that emerged from the divine, but have now strayed from their purpose and fallen into a state of darkness and ignorance. Amal says, I think this is the reflection of a Vedic image and refers to the world of the ignorance, where what has come from the truth has gone astray. And Temi says about these lost herds of the sun, the cattle of the sun, the cows of the sun, have gone down into the darkness of the caves, and the rishis have to rescue them. It is the parable of the light going into the darkness, and we have to retrieve the light. Vladimir?
Yes, it's the whole secret of the Veda, that how gods are invoked, and that light, which is the night, is carrying the light within her bosom, nursed a greater dawn. Yes, she is impregnated with light. There are two sisters, night and dawn, and they are twin sisters, and they are kind of occupying the same space, and they're changing their kind of, after the dawn, the day comes, after the day, the night takes over. And we have this alternation of night and dawn constantly. Whatever the in enlightenment we receive in consciousness is absorbed and taken by the night into her bosom every time, because we bring this light to her to enlighten our separated existence. Yeah? This is an ongoing process. Always we are going up and down constantly. The higher we go, the deeper we dive. And this is the process of integral yoga, which is not usually understood. People think that we have to go only higher, higher, and higher. It will not happen that way. The higher you rise, the deeper you dive. So we will have to bring that light deeper into the night, into our unregenerated being, which is waiting for that light, for that to be cultivated by that higher consciousness and change. That's the whole purpose of our existence. By the way, it was well known in the Veda, and that's what Sri Aurobindo and the Mother brought to us, this new meaning of yoga, of constant sacrifice, of constant bringing light into our being and charging it with new consciousness. So, and the cave here and the herds of the sun, these are the herds. They are always coming to us. The inspiration, always like a rain of heaven, comes to us. Only we do not use it. We do not use this grace. We are kind of taking it for granted, as it were, and the lower being is captivating that light and hiding it in subconscious cave. And there will be a moment where we become conscious of it and stop doing it. We'll recover that, those hidden treasures within us. And that is, again, a secret of the Veda consists of this, that within the deepest darkness, the densest, there is the supreme light hiding. And we have to recover that light. Yeah? So we are going not only up, we are going also down into the depth of inconscient to recover the supreme light.
And we see that Sri Aurobindo and the Mother had to do this also.
Yes.
And the Mother says at one point, if I can almost paraphrase it, at the bottom of the inconscient, most hard and rigid and narrow and stifling, I struck upon an almighty spring that cast me up forthwith into a formless view. I don't quite have that. Into a formless, viewless place vibrating with the seeds of a new world. It's basically the idea that she struck upon this spring at the very depth of the inconscient. Now we have a new sentence beginning here, and it's I'll have to call on you again, Vladimir, in a few moments. In a splendid extravagance of the waste of God, dropped carelessly in creation's spendthrift work, left in the chantier of the bottomless world, and stolen by the robbers of the deep, the golden shekels of the eternal lie, hoarded from touch and view and thought's desire, locked in blind antras of the ignorant flood, lest men should find them and be even as gods. So we have quite a bit here to discuss, and then I'll turn it over again to Vladimir. These chantier, Jumur tells us it's a building site where you dig the foundations. There is a lot of building. In order to build up, you have to dig down. It's like building a world. And in the letters on yoga, Sri Aurobindo tells us the robbers are, as in the Veda, vital beings who come to steal away the good condition, or else to steal the gains of the sadhana. Then we have the line, the golden shekels of the eternal lie. And the shekels are basically coin or money in normal parlance. Sri Aurobindo says that the eternal is, of course, God, but that which cannot perish. It can only lose itself. And then he says all is eternal in the eternal spirit. And in the life divine, he tells us that each is the whole eternal concealed. And again in the life divine, the eternal is our refuge. All the rest are false values, the ignorance and its mazes, a self-bewilderment of the soul in phenomenal nature. The next line, hoarded from touch and view and thought's desire, locked in blind antras of the ignorant flood. An antra is a cavern or a cave. So they're locked in those caves, lest men should find them and be even as gods. So back to you, Vladimir. There's a lot here.
Yeah, I think it is the development, the continuation of the same vision which was mentioned before about the traffickers who are the robbers of the deep. They are the robbers, those panis who are stealing our light. They are referred to in the Veda also as thieves. Yeah,
as thieves, yes.
Yeah, because they steal and they hide in the subconscious cave or in this flood, ignorant, some darkness, or in that bottomless world, all these words. And there is some flood, ignorant flood, which is kind of protecting them. They are the robbers, the thieves, the traffickers. They aggrandize themselves by stealing our light, and they want the light, but they are not capable of change easily. And that's why they just steal and hold on to it as if, costly prize. They want the light, but they do not know what to do with it. They want also to continue to be their own way. And that's how they aggrandize themselves until they can't anymore. And there is intrusion from above and it breaks their walls, and then they turn and transform into other beings. And this happens all the time. In the literature, you can see it, how Krishna destroys Rakshasas, you remember, and how they are grateful to him. These were divine beings within, which were trapped into that darkness, into that form. And so there is some divine prototype within, which has to be recovered. And that is the work we have to do. And that's why it is permitted for the light to be stolen by these darker beings, because then we will come back to it and will recover their true being. It's a divine economy. It's well organized.
Definitely. To continue, a vision lightened on the viewless heights, a wisdom illumined from the voiceless depths, a deeper interpretation, greatened truth, a grand reversal of the night and day. And we have so much on truth that I would like to share with you, especially from the letters on yoga first, but many others also. Sri Aurobindo writes, science started on the assumption that the ultimate truth must be physical and objective, and the objective ultimate, or even less than that, would explain all subjective phenomena. Yoga proceeds on the opposite view, that the ultimate truth is spiritual and subjective, and it is in that ultimate light that we must view objective phenomena. It's a brilliant statement. In the foundations of Indian culture, he tells us the supreme truths are neither the rigid conclusions of logical reasoning, nor the affirmations of creedal statement, but fruits of the soul's inner experience. Intellectual truth is only one of the doors to the outer precincts of the temple. So brilliant. The mother has 3 statements on truth that I would like to share with you. In volume 15, Collected Works of the Mother. The first, the truth is something living, moving, expressing itself at each second, and it is one way of approaching the Supreme. Second one, the truth is not linear, but global. It is not successive, but simultaneous. Therefore, it cannot be expressed in words. It has to be lived. And the last one, truth is a difficult and strenuous conquest. One must be a real warrior to make this conquest, a warrior who fears nothing, neither enemies nor death, for with or against everybody, with or without a body, the struggle continues and will end by victory. We have some time yet, so I'll continue. All the world's values changed, heightening life's aim. A wiser word, a larger thought came in than what the slow labor of human mind can bring. A secret sense awoke that could perceive a presence and a greatness everywhere. Now you see, here's where we go back to the importance of these capitalized words that Sri Aurobindo uses so liberally throughout Savitri. Why would he write a presence and a greatness everywhere and capitalize both the P and the G of greatness? Well, what he says is this: it is intended by the word presence to indicate the sense and perception of the divine as a being, felt as present in one's existence and consciousness, or in relation with it, without the necessity of any further qualification or description. Thus, of the ineffable presence, it can only be said that it is there, and nothing more can or need be said about it. Although at the same time, one knows that all is there: personality and impersonality, power and light and ananda and everything else, and that all these flow from that indescribable presence. The word may be used sometimes in a less absolute sense, but that is always the fundamental significance, the essential perception of the essential presence supporting everything else. And this is from his letters on yoga. In The Life Divine, he tells us, but if we learn to live within, we infallibly awaken to this presence within us, which is our more real self, a presence profound, calm, joyous, and puissant, of which the world is not the master, a presence which, if it is not the Lord himself, it is the radiation of the Lord within. And then he continues in another quote in The Life Divine: the true soul, secret in us, subliminal, we have said, but the word is misleading. For this presence is not situated below the threshold of waking mind, but rather burns in the temple of the inmost heart, behind the thick screen of an ignorant mind, life, and body. Not subliminal, but behind the veil. This veiled psychic entity is the flame of the Godhead, always alight within us, inextinguishable, even by that dense unconsciousness of any spiritual self within, which obscures our outward nature. It is a flame born out of the divine and luminous inhabitant of nature, of the ignorance, luminous inhabitants of the ignorance, grows in it till it is able to turn it towards the knowledge, capital K. It is the concealed witness, capital W, and control, capital C, the hidden guide, the daemon of Socrates, the inner light or inner voice of the mystic. It is that which endures and is imperishable in us from birth to birth, untouched by death, decay, or corruption, an indestructible spark of the divine. And there is so much more, but I'd like to read you just one more from the Synthesis of Yoga. For what yoga searches after is not truth of thought alone, or truth of mind alone, but the dynamic truth of a living and revealing spiritual experience. There must awake in us a constant indwelling and enveloping nearness, a vivid perception, a close feeling and communion, a concrete sense and contact of a true and infinite presence, always and everywhere. That presence must remain with us as the living, pervading reality in which we and all things exist and move and act. And we must feel it always and everywhere, concrete, visible, inhabiting all things. It must be patent to us as their true self, tangible as their imperishable essence, met by us closely as their inmost spirit. To see, to feel, to sense, to contact in every way, and not merely to conceive this self and spirit here in all existences, and to feel with the same vividness all existences in this self and spirit, is the fundamental experience which must englobe all other knowledge. There is so much more to share with you, but I think our time is up today, and we will continue next week. And Vladimir, thank you so much for that elegant and brilliant explanation of the Vedas. Namaste all.
Namaste.
Namaste, Naradji.